So Ricky, tell me, what do you think about my new book, XLZABK002?
Well, you know I can't read, but thankfully you wrote the whole thing verbally, dictating it to your secretary. Since I'm always around, I heard all 7 of the stories from start to finish. Safe to say I know them pretty well. And with all that being said, I'm not just kissing your butt for treats here, but I really do think that book 2 is pretty darn good.
Oh, thanks. That's nice of you to say. I appreciate the compliment.
What do you think of it?
Well, it's kind of hard for me to say, to be honest. I mean, I'm a bit biased, I guess. I am proud of it. I think that it's an accurate representation of myself, especially when you combine book 1 with book 2, the blue and the red.
Well, that explains why it's not a bestseller. Just joking. It's all I could do really is make jokes about you since, you know, I don't have thumbs and all.
Yeah, so about that, why do you think this book has not been more popular?
Well, the easy answer to that question is that people who could have shared it around, upheld their bargain on providing reviews that they said they would, or just advocating for it, those people chosen not to do that. But that's not the real reason it's not popular.
Okay, so what's the real reason then?
Well, reading books is kind of lame, honestly. Plus, your stories aren't for everyone. They're barely even for you, let alone some stranger. People aren't into the themes you write about, or more likely, they're just not into themes in general. The very few who read masculine fiction, they just want something simple, some kind of like pulp adventure story. They don't want to think too much.
I know there's some dudes out there that would disagree with that, but you'd probably say they're just in denial, right?
Yeah, I guess there's a few who value that sort of thing, but by and large, a lot of people find your style of writing probably rather self-absorbed and pretentious.
You really think that's the case? You sure about that?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, you gotta remember that literature's not supposed to be art. You're approaching all of this from the wrong perspective for the average reader.
I don't know, Ricky. Maybe there's some truth there, but what about after I'm dead? Do you think this sort of thing will maybe get some traction and will be recognized and appreciated after I'm gone?
Nope. The world just keeps getting dumber and dumber as time passes. I've only been around for a handful of years and I've seen it. Can I have a treat now?
Sure, I'll give you a treat. So what's your favorite story from XLZABK002?
You know that title hasn't helped you none, right?
You know, kiddo, I was kind of hoping we could stay positive in this video.
Okay, well, the obvious answer is Mayberry Romance. That dog, Old Gorchnik, his character really spoke to me. If you didn't get me from that shelter, pretty sure I would have ended up just like the Gorch.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, I hope you realize how lucky you've got it here.
Nope. Now give me another treat.
I imagine that maybe a dozen or so people will end up seeing this video. Is there anything you want to say to them?
Yeah, John takes a lot of bubble baths, almost as many as that Penn Jillette guy. And you know what? I kind of think that's part of the reason he hates Penn Jillette so much. Bathtub envy.
No. I mean about the book.
Yeah, it's got a blue cover.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I'm just being silly. It's a good book for the right person, for people who want something a little deeper, and generally for people who could tolerate your personality. They kind of have to like John Zaremba to like John Zaremba Book 2.
You know, this isn't exactly the type of promotional support I was hoping for, right?
Hey, I'm not sure what you want to hear. You wrote a book of 7 short stories, each one more or less from a different genre of some niche fiction that nobody pays attention to. People like things to be simple and straightforward. They want one book about one thing, and that one thing needs to resemble something they're already comfortable with.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's just not how life is. I wanted my writing to reflect the variety of nature.
Look, dude, I spend just as much time out in nature as you do. Believe me, I get it. But you gotta realize half the people who read this stuff, They've never seen the sun.
Ricky, that's not a very nice thing to say. You know there are going to be people watching this video, right? I told you that. You know that. Why are you saying these things?
Yeah, but like you said, maybe a dozen of them.
All right, whatever. Well, do me a favor. Just say something positive to end this video.
Did I mention it's blue?